posh SUVs. With comfort, practicality, desirability, and packed to the rafters with all the latest gadgets, they really are the great all-rounders of the car world.
But which do you choose between the Volvo XC60, the new BMW X3, or the Audi Q5, which is currently my favourite mid-size premium SUV? But could all that be about to change?
To find out, I'm going to see how practical they are.
I've just slipped a disc for sure.
Inspect their cabins.
It's just got a zen-like coolness about it.
Critique their designs.
Look at the size of my nose.
And hit the road to find out what they like to drive.
Vorsprung cost option. So, the Volvo XC60, it starts from £36,500, but with the CarWow saving, you can get it on CarWow for £32,500. And we move on to the Audi Q5. So, its list price is just under £39,000. With the CarWow saving, you can get it from just over £34,000. Now, finally, we come to the BMW X3. So it starts from £39,000, though through CarWow you can get it from just under £38,000. Now its discount is slightly less because this is a brand new vehicle, but things will change with time. That's why it's really important for you to click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video, so you can go to CarWow, you can configure your ideal car, build it just as you want it, and see the offers that you can get back, all without having to haggle.
So the XC60 looks the most tempting on paper, and it's pretty desirable in the style department too.
Now I remember the days when Volvos built boxes on wheels, but today they create some of the most stylish cars on the road, and I like the XC60 even more than its bigger brother, the XC90. I think it's just a smart looking thing, and if you want it to look sporty, you can get the R-Design version, but I prefer the inscription with its added bits of chrome trim. It looks a little bit more posh and upmarket, just like me.
If sporty looks are your thing, then the X3 will be right up your street.
I generally like the look of this new BMW X3. The back's nice, the side looks pretty pumped up and SUV-like, but then there's the front. I mean, what are they doing with these huge, big grills? It's like it's flaring its nostrils, like, hi, I'm a BMW X3, and look at the size of my nose.
It may not be quite perfect, but it stands out more than the Q5.
Audi is famous for its inoffensive, if rather unadventurous designs, and the Q5, well, it's kind of, yeah, does that very well. Not entirely sure why this car is fitted with those side running boards or a tacky Quattro sticker. I definitely wouldn't specify those.
At least on the inside, the Audi isn't decked out with pointless accessories.
This interior is all very, very nice. You know, it feels plush, feels solid. Look, you can't make that move at all, no matter how much you wobble it. Very sensibly laid out, very, very typically Audi. The infotainment system is pretty good as well. Now I should point out though, that you don't get satellite navigation on the entry-level car, though you do get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay standard, so you can hook up your phone to it and use your Google Maps from that anyway. But high models do get the system, and you can get it with Google Maps, which is lovely. And generally, the whole infotainment system is quite easy to navigate and to use. Now, this one doesn't have the full-on digital dials. You can get this beautiful widescreen display called Virtual Cockpit, and it's definitely worth having because these analog dials just start to look a little bit old in comparison, so definitely upgrade to that. But yeah, it's very hard to fault this interior.
As it turns out, it's just as hard to find fault with the X3's interior too.
There really is very little to choose from between these cars, so you have to go to the finest detail to separate them. And I think when it comes to build quality, this BMW just has the edge. It's super solid. Everything you touch feels nice and expensive. The design, I don't like it quite as much as the Volvos, but I think it's a bit more interesting than the Audis. But the thing that does stand out is this, the infotainment system. Now, this is the upgraded one with 10 inches, and it's well worth upgrading to, and you get it as standard on the M Sport model, and it's lovely. It's dead easy to use. BMW's iDrive, it's long been a favourite of mine, as you're probably aware. And this time though, look, I can use a swivel wheel, but also it is a touchscreen. The only problem that I have with this system is that you do have to pay extra for Apple CarPlay, and you can't get Android Auto with it at all. On the flip side, you do get digital dials with the car as standard right across the range, so they're a bit odd how they're half plasticky and half an actual TFT screen. Don't know why they've done that.
The X3's digital dials aren't as clever as Audi's virtual cockpit, though at least they are standard. They only show basic sat-nav instructions, whereas the ones you can get on the Volvo are prettier to look at, just like the rest of the XC60's cabin.
I love the simplistic design of the interior of this car. It just looks super, super nice, though it really is helped by the fact it's got the light interior. With the darker interior, it's not so special. Now, being the Inscription Pro, this one gets like this leather effect on top of the dash, which does feel gorgeous. And the design, it's simple, it's easy to use, and it feels solid. Look, that doesn't move if you try and shake it too much. Quality is probably just a little bit below the Germans, maybe ever so slightly when you tap it, but there's not much in it. Infotainment system, it's a portrait style touchscreen, which it's not as easy to use as the systems in the Germans, just not quite, because it is a touchscreen only and it's a bit more tricky when you're driving along. This one has the upgraded digital dials and they're pretty clear and easy to use, though the entry-level car doesn't have that, so you have to step up to the R design or the Inscription to get those. They're nice. I do like the interior of this car. It's just got a zen-like coolness about it. I'm so chilled.
And the good news is that the meditative feel carries over into the back seats.
Now, if I had to do a long journey in the back of one of these cars, I would probably choose to go in the back of this Volvo. Now, it's not way ahead of the others. It just seems to just edge them ever so slightly. Just a bit more room, perhaps. I mean, one of the reasons it feels a bit more spacious is because this one's got the light leather interior, and it does help. So does that big glass sunroof. But it's also very, very spacious, as you can see. And if you need to carry three at once, this middle seat is actually pretty yielding. You know, you can travel with three people in the back of this car at once, and it's not too much of a hardship.
In fact, it's the best in the back for three people because that centre seat is really comfy and the bench is wider than it is in the other two cars. If there's one small complaint, it's that the seat rails get in the way of your feet a little bit. By contrast, there's enough foot space in the back of the Q5 to keep a clown happy.
There's absolutely plenty of room here in the back of the Audi Q5. Really nice and comfortable. You can stretch out and you can actually upgrade to seats which slide for more boot space or more legroom and recline as well. So very versatile rear seats. But of course you have to pay extra for those. This car doesn't have them. Oh well.
The Audi has the least headroom here, but really, I'm being very picky, because only a giant would feel cramped in the back of the car. But that same giant would be slightly happier in the back of the BMW.
The X3 seems like quite a tall vehicle when you sat inside it. In fact, it seems to have more headroom than the other two, so if you need to give someone a lift who's got an extra long torso, they'll probably like it in this car the best. What you can also get is seats that recline. Look, unfortunately you can't get them to slide forward and backwards, but yeah, it's not too bad. What is bad though is the centre seat. It's a little bit on the firm side, and yeah, out of the three cars, this BMW X3 is the worst for carrying three in the back at once. If you don't have to do that, you probably won't care.
There's tiny differences in passenger space, but all three of these cars are perfect for young families. Each has big, tall doors which open wide, so it's dead easy to fit a child seat in any of them, even a bulky rear-facing one.
When it comes to boots, this X3 is very impressive. So it's got a good size, but it's packed full of useful features. So the load cover is dead easy to remove. I really like the way it just slides in and out like that. And look, this underfloor storage, it's on gas struts, which is super posh. Feels luxurious. And I can store this load cover in here. There's some more storage under there. Put that down, you've got a flat load floor, no load lift. And I can fold the seats down from here and they go all the way down flat without me having to do anything. Easy.
It's definitely the cleverest load area here, something that the Q5 can't quite compete with.
Okay, it's nitpicking time, right? Because the Audi Q5 has a little bit of a boot lip, which, see, you can't just slide things straight out. You have to lift them a little bit. Ow, my back, I've just slipped a disc for sure. Of course I haven't. Another thing that's a little bit annoying is, while I like the fact that you can release the seats from here, you do have to lean in to push them down, which is like, oh, why can't they be spring-loaded?
But the Audi bounces back when it comes to volume. It holds the same 550 litres as the BMW with the seats up, which is more than enough for a few suitcases. However, with the seats folded, there's slightly less room in the Audi than in the BMW, but not so it matters. But what about the Volvo?
One of the Volvo's weakest areas is its boot. Now, it's by no means small, but it's definitely smaller than those of the other two cars. Also, this parcel shelf, the way it operates, it just does my head in. And it can be, come on, there we go, a bit annoying to remove, and there's nowhere really to leave it in the car, so I'm going to leave it there like that. At least you've got a flat load bay and no load lip to carry stuff over. One thing that is annoying is that on this car I have to lean in to lower the seats. So, wish there's some levers just back here, make it easier, but this is a good thing. So this particular car has the optional air suspension, and you can raise and lower the ride height to make it easier for your little dog to jump into the boot. See? Good boy.
But is the Volvo a best in breed out on the road? Or is it more of a dog's dinner?
Now, it's quite clear when you drive the Volvo that it definitely takes a slightly softer approach than the other two cars. And in town, that's great, so it deals with bumps pretty well. And the steering's nice and light. Then at speed, it kind of like wafts you down the motorway. Though I should point out that this car is on the optional air suspension, and I would recommend having that because it just gives the car an air of sophistication that you don't get with the normal suspension setup. That said, I still don't think it rides quite as well over bumps as the Audi Q5 with the air suspension, and it doesn't feel quite as solid or as grippy on the road as the BMW X3 either. And through the corners, this is the more wallowy car. That may not bother you at all, but I think when you back-to-back it with the two Germans, it just doesn't feel quite as solid or as sorted to drive. There's not much in it, but there is a slight difference. Now, the engine on this one is punchy. It's the D5 2-litre diesel, 225 horsepower, and it's really good. A little bit noisy when you rev it out. I wouldn't bother getting the engine though. I would get the 190 horsepower D4 because it has all the performance you really need. And I'm averaging 37 miles per gallon, which is all right. Now, every Volvo comes with an automatic gearbox as standard, and it can be a bit of a weak point. Now, the reason for that is that when you're going slowly and you floor the throttle, it takes ages for it to respond, and you can just be left floundering. It's smooth enough though once you're cruising along. It's a very nice car to drive. It just doesn't seem quite as polished or as solid as the Germans.
So, how do the other two measure up?
This Audi Q5, I mean, it's such a good all-rounder in the way that it drives. I mean, yeah, it probably isn't the sportiest of sports utility vehicles, but it goes around corners well. It's grippy with its quattro all-wheel drive. It feels sturdy, it feels secure. It's also comfortable, it's quiet at speed, it's easy to maneuver in town. What's not to like? The engines are good as well, so the diesel engines are good, the petrol engines are good. The mainstay of the range will be the 2-litre diesel, and Audi says it'll do about 55 miles per gallon, but you're more likely to get probably, around 40 miles per gallon out of it. But it's smooth, it's quiet, and the automatic gearbox, it's responsive and smooth as well. It's a good car. Hard to fault. Actually, I do have one complaint. If you go for the S-Line version, it comes on lowered stiffened suspension, and it probably feels a little bit firmer than it needs to, but you can ask your dealer to deselect that onto the comfort suspension. But if you're going to do that, why not go one better and pay about £1,000 for the optional adaptive suspension, which smooths out the bumps even better, and then maybe go one better still and pay £2,000 for the optional air suspension, and then this car just glides over bumps. It's like a luxury limousine, but of course, you do have to pay for it. Such is the Audi way. Vorsprung cost option.
Okay, so you may have to pay for it with the Audi, but in the case of the BMW, you can't get air suspension at all. But, as it turns out, that isn't really a problem.
Now, it's quite clear that the BMW X3 has a slightly sporty edge to it, so you throw it into a corner, it just seems to grip and go round better with more composure than other SUVs. Good news is though, it is not to the detriment of comfort. Admittedly, this car has the adaptive dampers, and I've got it in comfort mode, so it rides over bumps really well. It's almost like you get the best of both worlds. A tall car, plenty of space, lots of grip, can be fun to drive, but it's also very, very comfortable. The engine's pretty good as well, this 2-litre diesel, so it's nice and punchy. Only complaint is it's a little bit on the noisy side when you rev it out, but economy's all right. It's doing 39 miles per gallon, and the gearbox, The gearbox is sweet. This 8-speed auto, which you get as standard, it's smooth and it's sharp. This car, it's a really nice thing to drive, really is.
So, where does all that leave us?
Well, this is a really tough decision, and for you, it's going to all depend on the price of the deal you can get on each of these cars. Could swing it either way, it's that close. But if that doesn't come into it, just comparing them as cars, the Volvo, it's a lovely thing. It's a great SUV, lovely to travel in. But then so too is the Audi, you know. It's a brilliant all-rounder. However, so too is the BMW X3. Yeah, I think it just edges the other two on interior quality, on technology, and in the way it drives. And that's why it just about wins this test.
If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and click on our logo to subscribe to this channel, on the video window to watch more content, or on the choose and buy box to see how much you can save on a new car at CarWow.